Welcome to Forest Chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, I'm talking with Ray Jones about being a musician. Ray picked up a guitar when he was a youngster, and in 23 and 24 won the Country Singer of WA award. Welcome to Forest Chat, Ray.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Pleasure. We met through a mutual friend, Duncan,
Yes.
who was on Forest Chat not too long ago. So great to build on those connections.
Yeah. Just through an interview, a regular sort of pop in with them every now and then, and that sort of thing. He said, "Oh, you need to talk to this guy."
Oh, fantastic. I appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I'm trying to send some people to Duncan as well, because I know he's always looking for people to be on his show as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're
Cool.
good guys.
They are. Now, Ray, you're a musician,
Yes.
and what sort of musician are you?
So I am the one that's taken the hardest road. So the country singer-songwriter, independent artist, not trying to run down the track that everyone else is running, found the herd, looked at what direction they're going and then picked the opposite, just to make life hard. And basically just be true to the craft that I want to do, which is a singer-songwriter world.
That's in photography. We do the same thing. They go look at what everyone's looking at, and then turn around and take a photo as well. You've done that for music, so that's very interesting.
Yeah. That's the advice I give to any young person, anyone that's starting out. I say to them, first thing is, if you look at what everyone else is doing and what they're aspiring to do and all that sort of thing, they're following somebody. And so you don't want to be like that. You want to stand out. You've got to find some sort of way to be different. So pick a different direction, straight up.
And what led you to your direction?
A constant knowing all of my life that I could do this. And I'm talking about even from childhood. I knew that it was something that I could do. And I got busy with life. I was in some bands, rock and roll bands, cover bands early in the piece, 18, 19. And then really didn't like that sort of scene at all. So then I parked it and raised a family, did all that sort of thing, and always had it in the back of my mind that this was something that I could do. I knew that if I took it on, that I could do something of substance with music. However, I didn't work that hard on guitar. I've always played, always had guitars in the house. I'm a bit of a collector, and one of my sons is a fantastic guitarist. So him learning and everything always kept me interested, and we would sit and play tunes, and he would push me to, sit and play with him and learn stuff. But I did the classic guitar thing where you would always learn part of a song or the coolest part of a song or whatever, but never learn the whole song. And it wasn't until much later in life where I went, okay, if I'm going to do this thing, which I'd sort of had in my mind, I would like to do like a one-man show, like learn how to be that entertainer. And I just set off on a journey to do it. I spent 5 years locked away in a room, basically, whenever I could be there. Nobody knew what I was doing. Not even my wife knew what I was doing, other than he's in there playing guitar and he's learning songs and doing stuff. And I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest, other than I kind of had a notion, and it became something. Once I took it out and someone said, hey, come and play on my stage, and I played to 100 people straight up, and they all came up and said, are you telling me you haven't, this is the first time you've come out and done this? I had done it years prior in a band, but it was the first time I'd done it alone. And I was like, yeah, this is, and then somebody paid me. And I was like, oh, okay, I like this. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's it. Yeah.
What does it take you, Ray, to be a musician?
So these days, a lot less than it used to on the music side of it. So all of that work I put in and the amount of shows that I play in that now, I don't really rehearse anymore. Unless it's writing songs or learning new songs or preparing for something. If I've got something really big, I might rehearse quite a bit. If it's a big deal, I'll probably rehearse every day for a couple of weeks. But as a rule, no, I don't do that kind of stuff much anymore. It takes to actually be the musician or run the machine that is now sort of Ray Jones or Ray Jones Live. It takes a lot of stuff behind the scenes. There's, endless emailing, accounting, sending out the bills. Nobody gets paid in a cash envelope over the bar anymore or anything like that. So there's all these other factors. There's PR work, social media, which really is from my era. Like, I get it and I participate, but I do find it tiring and fraudulent at times. But all of that stuff, all of that is a part of the machine. All the behind the scenes stuff, and then there's the get on stage with the guitar and sing a song. It's like the tip of the iceberg. The very pointy bit is the actual being a musician. Yeah,
the fun bit.
The fun bit, yeah. And most times I've got if it's a regular Sunday or a Saturday or a Friday night show or something like that, I've got to rock up mostly on my own, set up my gear, and I have a really good setup, so it's not just plug it into an amp and sing. It's a professional, really high quality sound. So there's a bit of work in setting it all up, and I've got to get there, set that up, play, and then pack it up at the end. So the fun ends when the show's over. Yeah, but I do love that. I love the connection to people and seeing audiences and then maybe sitting having a coffee somewhere, like at the Crooked Carrot. And this only happened last week. A guy came walking up to me rather strangely and he said, "Are you that guitarist guy?" And I was like, "Yeah, how do I know you?" And then it sort of dawned on me he'd been at Friday night's show. They'd been staying where I played. And so, yeah, I'd had a chat to them, but I don't remember all the faces, So there's all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, there's one of you and there's hopefully lots of people coming to your show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that connection is great. And I've made some unbelievable connections with people and fans through all that, yeah. So it takes a bit to run the machine, to do what I do. It's every day, even though everyone says, "Oh, you only work on the weekends and that." But, Monday morning I'm at it and doing stuff. And, I get to go do other stuff, but it's never out of my mind. There's always something to do, yeah.
That sounds like a little bit like finding guests for a podcast.
Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah, kind of trying to always have that something relevant, something topical, and something that people are keen to listen to, I guess.
Yeah. So you're doing country style music,
yep.
And what area are you going to actually do that?
So, I mean, most of my work is, here and around the southwest and in WA. I usually tour along the north coast twice a year. I haven't done that at all this year because we've just been so wrapped up with the project we're in at the moment. And across the country, earlier in the year I was in Tamworth at the last Tamworth Country Music Festival and had some appearances there to do with my record label and on the Bill Chambers show and all that sort of stuff. And he's the person that actually got me there and sort of said, "You've got to come." So I went over but we then went and recorded an album as well. But yeah, right around Australia, I guess. I haven't been overseas with it yet. I'd love to. I will be doing a live cross to a sister town to Harvey in Japan in November. So they've got a celebration of, I think their 3-year celebration of being in this union, and they've asked if I will come in and do a live performance which will be streamed over in Japan.
God, so that sounds pretty cool.
Going global. Yeah.
That's it, yeah, to the land of the rising sun.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. A friend of mine just toured over there and he said it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a work trip back there in the 90s, but that's so long ago.
Yeah, I'm hoping they'll like me so much that they'll go, "Let's get this guy over here."
We can always hope.
They love their country music and guitar and all that sort of thing in Japan. Yeah, they're big on it. Yeah, I get a lot of streaming, believe it or not. I can see, especially through Spotify, I can see where my music streams around the world in detail, right down to, gender and all that sort of stuff. It's age and the algorithms work it all out. But yeah, Japan's pretty good for me, yeah.
Okay, so you've got your music loaded up somewhere that
On
People
every
can-
streaming platform that exists, my music's there. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
fantastic.
yeah, the Spotify's, the iTunes, the Deezers, YouTube's, all those different ones. Yeah, it's on everything. Yeah.
So it's quite the operation. Well, that's one person behind it, you.
Yeah.
Do you have any help with it?
Yeah, I do have a bit of a team. I can't afford to, being independent, I can't afford to have, lots of paid staff or anything like that. But I bring people in. So I have a permanent PR manager in Sydney, Stuart Coop. He's a novelist and also is well known for, well, he's big in the industry, in the music industry. He's the guy that kind of kickstarted Paul Kelly's career.
Oh,
And,
cool.
I was sitting on my front veranda last week talking to him because I was a little bit down about some results we'd had, and he was explaining the story about how he and Paul Kelly scraped together $3,000 to make Paul's first album, and nobody listened to it. So I wish my last album had only cost me $3,000, trust me. But yeah, so Stuart's in my team, and he does the PR side of things when we need it to happen. And I have a graphic artist that I work with whenever we've got to do anything digitally, marketing, album artwork, anything like that. She does that local. I've tried to keep all of it, where I can, I've tried to keep it local. Just got a new local photographer, a young lady that I'm working with who happened to be a friend of my daughter's. So she's running a photography business, so she's hired. I have to change photographer, but that's a whole nother story. And so we've got them. Then we've got the record label side of it. Even though I'm independent, I still need to hook myself to somebody. So I work with a group in Queensland called Mustang Radio Services, and they distribute the music for radio all around the country and around the globe. Who else? I'm probably going to forget someone. I do have a bit of a part-time manager, but I still kind of like to keep my hands in control of what I do a little bit, or a lot actually. It's hard to hand that control over. And when I did hand it over completely, I was totally uncomfortable with it. I couldn't settle with trusting someone to just not make a mistake.
You know your limit of comfort.
Yeah.
And away you go.
That was a strange world for me very quickly to go, okay, I don't need to book anything and I don't need to talk to anybody. It's all up to him. And it wasn't long before I said, I can't leave that level of control in your hands. Sorry.
I hope they were understanding that.
He was, yeah. And he was really busy too. So it was kind of a relief in a way. It's like, oh man, I'm so busy. So yeah, it's sort of, there's a team of people there, and I'm sure that I've probably left someone out, but I need that. I would love it if I had someone who could totally look after everything I do, and I could just go play music. But you need a lot of money to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you're getting around and doing shows and things like that. So it'll be when things are on, they're on, and when they're not, they're not.
Yeah. It's a busy year for me normally. Like, we don't try and break a record every year, but we'll average somewhere between, and it's a big number, but somewhere between 50 and 100 shows a year. It'll be, 60, 70, 80 shows. We always want to make sure that the average is a minimum of a show a week, and then anything above that's a bonus. And I would normally travel somewhere around, it averages about 30,000 kilometres a year, just on the road touring.
Just on the road?
Just
so,
on tarmac, yeah.
So not counting going to like Tamworth or anything
all
like
that's
that?
a whole nother ball game again, like jumping on planes, on and off planes. And last year I was busy. I toured north twice on the road, and twice jumping on planes and heading up there for shows and festivals and that sort of thing. So it gets pretty busy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the machine really. Everybody thinks that, I've had it said to me so many times, oh, it's such a glamorous life, and all of this stuff, because it's kind of new for me. And so if it's new for me, it's new for all the people that know me. And I say to them sometimes, you should try sitting in a hotel room when you've been with hundreds of people, and then you're in a hotel room in Melbourne just outside the airport on your own with some suitcases and a guitar, wondering about how you're going to get to sleep and, when you're going to get home and all that sort of thing,
Yeah, travel isn't everything that it's made up for. That every night that you're out there, unless it's already planned and booked and you're just following the schedule and you know where you're going,
yeah,
But if there's any uncertainty, it's very destabilising.
Yeah, and just the touring side of it, even on the road. Quite often these days, I'll tour with another artist, especially north. It's just more fun. You've got an extra set of hands. You work less. You get paid a little bit less, but you still make some money, and you've got a travelling companion, which is great. But it's always fun. But that's what I was mentioning to you earlier about the highs and the lows. Even in that, every night is a high, unless it's a terrible crowd or something, but that never happens. But
The crowd at Meekatharra, they're fine.
well, I played a show in Carnarvon. We played a show in Carnarvon last year, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. And I really like Carnarvon, and it actually turned out really, really good. So, you just never know. But, you get those nights where the crowd's been great, there's all this excitement and there's a bit of adrenaline and a high, and then everybody else gets to go off and have another drink and whatever they're doing, and we get to pack up and find our hotel room or whatever and crash and get up and do it all again. So that, although I always get excited in the morning for coffee.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We've heard what it takes, Ray, to be a musician. We'll have a break now, and after the break, we'll have a look at what it means. We've had a look at what it takes, Ray, to be a musician. Now, let's have a look at what it means. Ray, what does it mean to you, your family, or the community that you're able to be a musician?
That's a really, really good question, what it means. It means that I've finally had the chance to express a lot of the things that I've kept in a different closet for a very long time, for decades. So there were people constantly saying to me, oh, we didn't even know that you played or sang, when all of this happened. But I always did. They just didn't know, and we didn't make it public, and it wasn't a job. So it's really special to be able to share what I do and my creativity in music and my ability to write songs, put stories together. More than anything, I like to tell stories. So it means a lot to have an impact, to have that connection with a crowd, with an audience, with a single person who comes up and thanks you and says, thanks for doing that, because I really, really connect with that. So it means a lot to me to be able to do that. It means a lot to me that I've made my children and my family really proud of what I've done. And I've been able to bring that back home to my hometown where I live in Marlup, but I'm a part of the Harvey community, and the Harvey community and the local shire and all those facets have really embraced me now in what I do. It's so much so that they kind of see me as a part of what they explain to me is, you're a part of our tourism industry in a way, which was kind of nice, that to be noticed like that. So it means a lot, I guess, to be able to share what I do and what I have to give. Yeah. Yeah,
well, there's a few parts to that as well, because there's the story that you put out there, and I'm sure that resonates with quite a few people, especially in Harvey. And then there's also the musicality of it, what you do, that people love as well.
Yeah, well, the music and the song go hand in hand. The story is a whole other thing. I've got a new song. Well, it's not a new song. It's been around for a while, but it's on the new album called Stranger. And it literally came from me sitting in our back room, which is all glass, and I was sitting with a guitar. My wife on a Sunday morning said, I'm going to go into town. I want to go and get a couple of things. Do you want to come along? And I went, you know what? I feel like a stranger when I go in there at the moment, because all the faces have changed and I don't really see all the people I went to school with or I know. And she said, no worries, and off she went, and a little bluebird landed right at the back window. And I'd been thinking about a local businessman that had been in the town that I was my first real supervisor, and he'd been in the town forever and had done a lot for the town. And so he'd just passed away, and I had been thinking about him, and literally like the lightning hit, the line for the first part of the song came around, because my mum, who's also long gone, painted blue wrens, and those bookmarks can be seen all around the southwest and everywhere, where they raise money still for wildlife organisations and that sort of thing. And so the line, "There's a bluebird and he's at my window," came, and then the rest of the song came, and it was all about, the song is about how did I end up a stranger in my hometown. And my story with that is, if you stay in your town or your postcode long enough in your life, the place will change and you will become a stranger. You'll feel like a stranger, because people come and go and new people come. And it's not a criticism, it's just my lens of what I see. So yeah, that, and people in Harvey really connect with that, especially the family of a gentleman that I just give, probably 7 words in a line about remembering him and what he did for the town. And they were just blown away. They reached out to me and said, "We can't believe that you did that." And everybody gets it. There's a dam out back, it's over the hillside. We used to play hooky there for hours and all that sort of stuff. There's all these lines that Harvey people who've been around long enough go, "Oh, he's telling our story." Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and that's a real connection to the community that
very much
that
so.
you have and that they have. And although the name of the song is Stranger,
yeah, it's a conundrum. Yeah, I have another song on my first album called Diesel Engines, which is Bill Chambers and myself co-wrote via voice memo. Bill was in Africa, I was in Milup, and I had this idea of a letter from my grandfather's funeral that was read out. He was a steam engine driver. He drove the Leschenault Lady for his last drive. He was stationed in Brunswick for a long time, and he wrote a letter to the railways saying he didn't want to be transferred to Bunbury, or they were going to transfer him somewhere else because steam was getting phased out and they were going to diesel locomotives. And it was almost a poem, this letter and so years later I got hold of it, and I said to Bill, "I've got this idea, I want to tell my grandfather's story." And so we wrote Diesel Engines, which is all about him not wanting to be in a diesel engine. He wants to stay with steam. And it's just that conundrum in the title of the song even. You think, it's got nothing to do with... It has got a bit to do with diesel engines, but we're writing about steam and his story. So, yeah.
So there's some nice reflections there of...
Yeah.
It's something coming down the pike that is really not where you want to be.
Yeah. And I like to do that with my music. I like to try and put some puzzles in there. If they're listening, they listen long enough and hard enough or deep enough to get either their own perspective or totally get what I'm trying to say. Because quite often they'll take a completely different take on what you've written. And we always say, that's fine. If that's what you get, then that's your take. Cool, So yeah, it's nice to just try and do that to stay interesting and relevant, not just write the stuff that everyone wants to hear about, a can of export and a ute going down a gravel road. I'm not into that. Yeah,
that's a really great sentiment that you put into your songwriting.
Yeah. I like it to be real and relevant. I've written some really hard hitting stuff. There's one song in particular off the first album that we just don't play anymore. Like live, I don't play it because it's too hard for anyone in the audience that has suffered. It deals with domestic violence, and a lady that worked for me in the early days told me her story. The next day I wrote her song and I wrote her story, and I always say to people, be careful what you tell me, because I can't help it. I might, somehow inadvertently in a third person tell your story. And that song is powerful, but so much so that I don't want to make people cry, in just and it's very subtle. When I say powerful, it's subtle, but it says enough and I have seen people in audiences hang their heads during that song. So yeah, I just don't do that anymore. I like to make people happy.
It talks to the people who have experienced it from some angle.
From both sides, the sufferer and the perpetrator.
Right.
Yeah. which is a really interesting thing, because I noticed when I was playing the song, I could see women's tears and I could see a couple guys hang their head. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's powerful. It made me realise how powerful that can be. Yeah. And you kind of got to be careful with it.
Yeah, I'm sure. In the back of my mind, I'm going, there's all this talk about DV issues these days.
Yeah.
Is there more need to highlight it? But you've seen it in real time.
Yeah. I guess it's like putting the torch to someone, you know, like and although I don't take it back, and I'm proud of it, very proud of it. And I had, you know, particular women come up and just thank me and hug me and say, thank you for doing that. And, you know, that's my story. And it was so often. And yeah, I was like, oh, wow, you know. And so I went, my first album, there's a lot of unloading of some pretty tough stuff, personally, for me as well. Nothing to do with that, but from my childhood and you know, losing my parents, losing, you know, like eventually, you know, parting with their family home and all that sort of thing. And so I unloaded all of that. That's the beauty of music and songwriting, which I learned was it's cathartic. You can unload stuff and not realise you're doing it until the end. And then you're like, oh, actually, I feel better about that now. So that's really cool. And yeah, I've just learnt that the music is powerful and the stories are powerful. You have to respect them and respect your audience and your crowd. And I like to tell relevant stories. You know, the first album is Sleeping Rough, which was the whole topic is to raise awareness for homelessness. And in that, for every album we sold, physical album we sold, we kept $3 for homeless charity and all that sort of thing. Just trying to make a difference in some way with the music. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. That's what I'm trying to do with this podcast as well, is to make a difference. So yeah, it's really good to know that what you put out there does some good.
Yeah, and I look at it now, it's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking you want to change the masses. But if you just change one person's day or whatever with your podcast, then isn't that really important? You know, I recently did at the Harvey Ag College, I did an address to the Year 12 students who were finishing their time at school and going off to be adults. And when I was asked about it and I thought about it, I thought, well, if I, you know, because they said, you know, there could be a tough crowd, who knows, whatever. And I was like, yeah, but if there's one kid in that crowd that I inspire with my life story of what I've done and what I've achieved and the differences that can happen and all that sort of thing, then isn't that powerful? Just one person. And then if that ripples on to more, then great. So you got to, I don't know, I respect what you're doing because it's kind of like what I do. You're just trying to make a difference.
Yes, making a difference in our own way.
Yeah, and in our community. I feel like we haven't lost it, but especially through the COVID period and everything, something snapped. And we've lost a part of that sense of community in places, is my take on that. And I'm hoping we can get back.
Yes, community is a much better place to be than what we've seen through that period of time, definitely.
Yeah. And what we are seeing, I think it's really good to try and educate our younger people. It all lies with them, to help them to have a healthy sense of respect and ownership of community. Because a good community is, you know, it's a pretty happy place, you know.
Absolutely. We've moved to Austerlind only a couple of years ago, but wandering up and down the street, you know, waving to people and kids on their way to school say hi and all that sort of stuff. It's just an amazing place to be able to be a part of that community as well.
Yeah. It's a funny thing. Like for me, the music community is a really strange thing at times. Recently, I was up in Perth for a big West Australian conference in the music industry, and people were coming up to me and saying, "Hi Ray, how you going?" shaking my hand, and I didn't have a clue who they were. They knew who I was. had no clue. I had to keep saying, I'm sorry, I don't. Oh, no, we've been following you, or we've seen what you're doing, or I was at a show, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a community. It's a good thing.
Absolutely. We've heard a good amount about what it means for Ray to be able to be a musician. We'll have a break now, and after the break, we'll have a talk about how you do it. We've heard what it means that Ray can be a musician. Now, let's have a look at how you do it. Ray, if someone wanted to become a musician, what would you suggest that they do?
My first thing that I say to anybody is embrace hard work. Just understand that all the stuff that you see online, in the media, on the news or whatever about the Taylor Swifts of the world or anything like that, none of that, they didn't win a lottery. If you look back at pretty much any of those people, anyone who's ever done any good at all, they've worked tirelessly for most of a lifetime, and they've taken the knocks and that sort of thing. So it's about work. It's about knowing your lane, knowing where your strengths lie, where they don't lie, and whether you can improve them or what you can become really good at.
Play to your strengths.
Yeah, very much so. My one of my pet things that I try and tell people is like that are playing the weekend gigs, and they say it like Trindale Farm or wherever, and you hear them do a cover song, and it might have been their favourite song all their life, and it might be yours too, but if they can't do that song justice in their own way, then possibly don't do it. Find the song that you can do justice. Just because it's your favourite song, you shouldn't play it. That doesn't mean you should go out there and try and convince the world that, you're Taylor Swift or whoever. You need to find the songs that are in your range, in your comfort zone, and learn to do them really, really well with a twist or whatever. Any cover songs, I don't do a lot of cover songs, but when I do, I put a twist on them. So either play them on a different instrument or in a different key or a different tuning or whatever, where people walk up and they go, I didn't know you could do that. So try to be different for a start. Embrace hard work and understand that the music industry is brutal. I would not tell anybody if it's not for the faint-hearted. I guess the younger you are, the better, because marketability, if you want to take it on as a career, marketability, and as sad as this sounds, being marketable is very important if you're going to go somewhere in the industry. I look back at when we first tried to find PR management for me, and we were getting emails back. I had a guy working at trying to find the right people, and he would come back and he'd say, they love you. They love your music, they love everything, but you're too old. They can't market you. And so they're walking away. And then finally, Stuart came along, who'd been, he's a giant in the music industry, and his email read, I don't care if he's 100, I'll take him. Because he knows that we're not looking at that kind of marketing. We're looking at getting the music out there. To me, it's about the music. So my point is, you need, if you're young and you're going to have a go at it, you need to present yourself and that sort of thing, along with that work, the hard work. If you're going to play instruments, go into a room somewhere and learn that instrument really, really well. Not just to be able to play it and don't be blasé about it. Learn how to play it really, really well. To give you an example, for me, I've always played guitar, and when we were going to do my first album, I couldn't fingerpick. And we were partway through it, and we had to have about a 3-month break. And in that 3-month break, I was away going, okay, we've done a start, and I don't love what I'm doing. I need to learn to fingerpick. So I just worked and worked and worked, so much so that, it was either my wife was going to smother me or I was going to learn to do it. And I learnt to do it. And then when I went back to my producer and I said, how does this sound now? And he was looking at me. He was so confused. He's like, how can you do this now? Because it's not a simple task. And I said, I just worked. And now he rates me as one of the best fingerstyle guitarists in the country. And that's coming from, Bill Chambers, Casey's dad. So, work. You've got to be prepared to work, study the industry, go and learn as much as you can about the industry. Don't take anything for granted. Lean on people, ask questions. I mean, I'm always around. I always say to the younger people in the community, music community, if you've got questions, come and ask me. Get in touch, learn from the people that have been around, and good luck. And also these days, probably the most important thing is have a backup plan. So don't just think that you're going to go out and be a full-time musician and make enough money to pay a mortgage or buy a car. These days, there's so little money in it that you need to be able to subsidise your want to be a musician, and it will work. But if you want to eat and buy coffee or whatever, you need to have a side job. It's very important.
So you need to have a side job, obviously, that you can do, that gives you the time when you need it to do your gigs and that sort of thing.
Most gigs are on the weekend anyway. So if you've got a 9-to-5 job or a part-time job or anything that gets you through the week and gets you an income, then, you're subsidised into your music game. And then when you do earn some money on the weekend, well, that's a bonus. But the industry's tight. And a lot of people don't get this. I mean, there is word out there, but when I explain the Spotifys of the world and that to everybody, they are shocked. Everybody knows that there's something not right, but they don't know how not right it is. So I'll take my first album, for instance. It's now tipped over 1 million streams on that album. And the only royalty that I've seen from Spotify is a royalty for 4 cents after it was converted back from US dollars.
Wow.
Which when I don't even know how they transfer that in my bank account, I guess 4 cents.
You wouldn't even recognise it's gone in.
Well, yeah, would the transaction even happen? Because does the transaction cost money more than, I don't know. But that's what I'm saying, and I've dived deep into that part of the industry, and they only pay you if they deem you're on the right part of the pyramid to pay you. It's not every artist gets 0.003 of a cent per stream. It's the ones that they deem worthy of paying.
Oh, so they pick and choose.
They pick and choose. Yeah, it's very in-depth. So, the reason I bring that up is if you've written a great song in your bedroom, and you may have, and everything, and you can go get it recorded and put it out there, that doesn't mean you're going to become a millionaire overnight. In fact, it's the opposite. You'll have a product, and if it's a good product, you'll have to go out there and market it, play it, push it, pay other people. There are gatekeepers. Your music won't get played unless you pay people. There's all these things. So I only say that to dispel the illusion that it's easy. It's not impossible. And I've had, for the level of success that I would ever want, I've had really good success. I've had success that I never imagined. And my music streams all around the world and is heard in, every country on the planet. And I can see that. I'm super grateful for that. And I also now have the take that, I don't make any money out of it. But if I had to pay somebody to do that, that's where my money's going. The money I don't get is aggregating my music around the globe, because I couldn't afford to pay an individual to do that. I would be able to afford it. So I kind of try and find the positive in that. And that's what I would say to any young person, anyone, young, old, whatever, that is wanting to embark on a musical career, put it in points. Be prepared to work hard, be prepared to get beat up, be prepared to work even harder. Try and be positive as often as you can, find the positives, because there'll be plenty of negatives. And roll the dice and just see what happens. Yeah.
And there's a great community to join as one of those people getting out there and doing it.
Yeah, look, the music community for my part is awesome. You know, I've made great connections here in Australia, in Western Australia, Australia-wide, and even globally. Only just recently I had a guy, after we put out the first song off this new album, a guy from the UK started emailing saying, hey, you know, I'm a songwriter. I'm originally from Australia, but I work in the UK. I co-write with a lot of people. I'd really like to co-write some music with you. And, you know, he's had, you know, #1 songs. And originally I found out, you know, after talking to him for a while, that he was in one of Paul Kelly's original bands. So he's been around. And we've sort of done some Zoom stuff, and we've written part of a song at the moment. And it's just that connection from around the globe, from my music. You know, he's heard one of my songs and got on the internet and who's this guy? And it's taken his fancy. He's like, oh, I'd like to work with him, you know. So, yeah, the community side of it can really help, yeah.
And thinking about that, there's the community radio aspect, and there are also things go on locally here in the southwest as well, aren't there?
Oh, yeah. Community radio for me, and again, that's good advice for any young person, or any person. I keep saying young people, but any person who wants to get involved in music and recording and putting stuff out there, whatever, get involved with your community radio. They are so much more important than the big mainstream radio stations, because they're locked in the 80s and the 90s. They're not interested in your music. If you listen, I hope they don't listen to this. They might cancel me. But they are. You think, man, there's a lot more new music out here now. Why aren't you playing that? But community radio do. They're always looking for local artists at any level. And so they're your people to go to. And they're global. They're syndicated around the world. And some of them might play to 90 or 100 other radio stations. If they've got a radio show that's all about, say, local country artists or local pop artists or whatever, that might get played in a whole heap of stations in America because they're syndicated together. And they're interested in us Australians.
Well, they're your local radio station.
Yeah. I mean, I just cannot emphasise how important community radio is to musicians in particular. I mean, they're great for the community because they're about the community and their interests lie there. But at the same time, musicians, they're always interested and they're always willing to give you a play and a plug. And that is where you might make $1, because every time they play, you get a little bit better royalty from a radio stream than you do anywhere else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's all collectible. Yeah. Once you've set it up, it just comes back.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's plenty to learn there to get that set up and all that sort of thing.
So much.
But there's a local in.
There is a local in, yeah, and get involved with community radio in many ways. I've got a young mate that was actually friends of my kids growing up, who's just come back from Perth, and he's now involved in Bunbury Community Radio. He's got his own show, and guess what? He's looking after local West Australian original music, you know, artists of any genre. He's plugging them on a Saturday morning. So, you know, it made me really proud to see where he's come to and his interest in music. And he's already a help to me because I've got new music coming out, and he's like, hey, you know, is it cool if I play this? And I'm like, absolutely, here's your own copy, you know. Yeah, and thanks for the help, you know. So, yeah, and I get tapped on the shoulder nearly every week, somebody saying, hey, I heard your song on the radio or whatever, and that's cool. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, and my advice to anyone is, I guess, have a go, but be prepared. It's a wild ride. And I didn't know, just to backtrack a little bit, all I knew when I started this was that I knew that I wanted to do something. And then out of the blue, this guy, Bill Chambers, I get told he's coming to WA, he wants to meet you, wants to play a couple shows. And I was like, I didn't believe it. And then when it happened, he sat down, we hit it off immediately. We wrote some songs together immediately. And then he asked me a question, are you going to record? Have you ever recorded? And I said, no. And he said, why? And I said, I don't know. Who wants to listen to me? And he got really stern and said, you've actually got something to say and you've got a bit of talent. So I want you to come to Sydney and we're going to make a record. And so we did. And I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you about music or my career if it wasn't for that moment that he actually gave me a talking to and said, no, you need to get serious about this. And I already thought I was serious.
There's another level?
There's another level. There's many more levels. So I'm ever grateful for that. And then the people who have come along, I've been on stage with, the Troy Cassadaly's on the same stage as Lee Kernaghan more than once. The Fanny Lumsdens, the Casey Chambers, all those people, our green rooms have been side by side and all that sort of stuff. And I still pinch myself when I look at some of the things that have happened. Winning awards. I never dreamt of winning an award in WA or anywhere for what I do. And yet I did. So that's, I guess, that dare to believe thing. It's a big leap of faith.
And it doesn't happen unless you do something.
That happens from the work. People around that mattered recognised the amount of work I was doing and the amount of work I'd done. So, yeah, it goes back to that at the very beginning, my first bit of advice, be prepared to work. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much, Ray, for being on Forest.chat.
Thanks, Paul. It's been good.
Yeah, all Forest.chat listeners wish you all the best with your future endeavours.
Thanks. I'm on holidays in a week or two, so that's my next future endeavour. I'm going to go and park my caravan at a beach up north. Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be very refreshing and good for you.
I hope so. I can't wait.
You've been listening to Forest.chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, we've been talking with Ray Jones about being a musician. Remember, there are 4 ways to get involved with Forest.chat. Share the domain Forest.chat with your friends and family and people you meet. When you sign up for emails, you get advance notice of the episodes. Listen to the episodes at forest.chat/episodes. If you do something interesting that other people might want to hear about, book an interview at forest.chat/interview. If you want to support a small business, book an advert at forest.chat/advert. I'm looking forward to joining you with our next guest. Until then, enjoy making it happen.